I walked into a tarot reading only to be followed by symbols from another life. This happened to me last year when I was going through a rough patch and decided to visit a tarot reader for some guidance. I walked into the dimly lit shop on a rainy evening, my footsteps echoing off the wooden floor as I closed the door behind me. The walls were lined with shelves full of books, candles, and crystals. A faint scent of incense hung in the air, making it hard to concentrate, but also soothing enough that all I could think about was letting go. The tarot reader, a petite woman named Alara, greeted me warmly from her seat by an old wooden desk cluttered with cards and other mystical objects. She asked what brought me there tonight, and when I told her my story of recent struggles, she nodded knowingly before inviting me to sit down across from her at the table. Alara spread out a deck of tarot cards on the worn-out cloth laid over it and began shuffling them in silence for several minutes. As she did so, something caught my eye, an intricate symbol etched into the wood grain of the desk near us. It was vaguely familiar yet oddly unsettling. I couldn't shake off its presence. When Alara turned her attention to me again after laying out 3 cards in a spread before each other, the carved symbol seemed to have multiplied across every surface within sight, on book covers and candle holders, even scrawled onto walls under layers of paint. It made my skin crawl, but I tried not to let it show. Your past is guiding your future, Alara intoned softly as she explained what each card meant in relation to me specifically. The universe is sending you signs. I nodded along despite how distracted the strange symbols were making me feel. The cards spoke of challenges ahead and a need for patience, nothing I hadn't anticipated already, really. Do any particular images stick out? Alara asked at one point during her narration, looking up from my card spread to meet my gaze directly in hers. Yes, I replied hesitantly after staring hard at the card symbols surrounding us. These symbols, they seem everywhere. Alara paused, a curious smile tugging at her lips as she leaned forward slightly toward me over the cards. Ah, was all she said before falling silent for what felt like an eternity. The longer we sat there in that tense quietude, the more convinced I became about these markings' pervasiveness until suddenly Alara broke into laughter, a soft chuckle full of understanding and mischief rather than mockery. Is something funny? I managed to ask between my own growing unease. It's just, she started once her laughter subsided somewhat. The symbol you mentioned, it means so much more here today than you might think. She picked up one card from the spread and turned it face up toward me, a card that depicted an old woman seated under a gnarled tree bearing ripe fruit while surrounded by said symbols everywhere. The guide, Alara whispered softly as she met my eyes once again. You're meeting your own self here in this moment. My heart skipped several beats before I finally understood what she meant. The carved symbol was etched not just into the physical environment, but also onto every surface of my mind too. A remnant from another lifetime where I'd played exactly the same role Alara now did. The realization hit me hard. All these years later, here I was facing myself in this new form, no longer as guide or reader but seeker and recipient. The truth behind it left me shaken yet oddly at peace, somehow knowing my path hadn't ended with that previous life's end after all. Alara nodded knowingly before gathering the cards back up into her deck and placing them away on a nearby shelf, leaving us both in silence once more save for our breathing until finally I thanked her deeply as we parted ways later outside under streetlights reflecting off puddles left from earlier rain showers. Like this if you believe in fate.